Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Super Jam Session version 2. My name is JoshAgeddon, and today we're talking about one of my favorite people and one of my favorite albums ever, Marilyn Manson Mechanical Animals. We're doing it! We're talking about it! Notice how I said we, because I am not alone. I am joined by one of my best friends, a friend who hails from the lovely state of Connecticut, and who was a mere boy before listening to Mechanical Animals, but has since emerged a man, son. His approach to our wonderful YouTube channels can best be surmised into the following mantra. I don't like the podcasts, but the podcasts like me. He is the one and only Colonial champion, Sean McCarty. What's up, Sean?
Well, you ought to know, sir, that you made it very accurate earlier in that intro when you said best friend, because let me tell you something, folks. This guy would not shut up since version 1 about doing this review.
Yeah, Matt Hardy does not return my phone calls anymore.
No. It was so bad. I hardly could take any shit anymore.
Shut the fuck up.
You asked for this. This is your show. You asked for this.
No, this is our show. This is our baby.
You asked for this. But the point is, finally, I decided that the only way I could shut him up is to start going to the gym. And so I went to the gym originally to tune him out, but then I said, you know what, I'm going to listen to this album. And
no, what happened was you messaged me, hey, I'm going to the gym and I want to listen to music while I work out. Send me a Marilyn Manson album. And I did.
Yes, because I really wanted to shut your mouth. And I was also wanting to work out at the time. 2 birds, 1 stone, playa. And because The Undertaker wasn't available for you to go one-on-one with, I guess I had to settle for asking for a little music.
Yeah. So, as you know, as has been made painfully aware to you for, like, the majority of our friendship, I'm a huge Marilyn Manson fan.
A bit of a mark, if I might say so myself. But in a good way.
Marilyn Markson. I've been obsessed since, like, 2018. And my favorite album of his is Mechanical Animals. It's my favorite album of all time. It's so fucking good. And you, while not like being like, oh, Marilyn Manson sucks, so like, you're just kind of more like, he has some hits. And then you listen to this. So, what are your thoughts overall on Marilyn Manson pre-Mechanical Animals?
Well, to be fair, I didn't really know a lot of his work. I must plead ignorance a little bit because I just never grew up with him. He wasn't really in my wheelhouse. You know what? The closest I ever got to him, and forgive me for saying this. Forgive me for saying this because this is ignorant knowledge, but the closest I got to that was like My Chemical Romance. Right?
It's funny you say that. In one of his albums, he has a diss track against My Chemical Romance because he felt like they were.
Forgive me for saying this.
He felt that they were stealing his gimmick, so he was really mad at them and made a song about them.
Well, I'm overall going to drive a point home about Marilyn Manson that involves MCR later because I apologize for the comparison now but I'm going to say a parallel. It's funny you say that about them once we actually kind of get into the weeds of this a little bit. But I kind of just typecast him. I hate to say like judgment via appearance, but like I kind of figured it was going to be grungy, whiny, let me complain about stuff. I'm not okay. Sad white shit.
Sad white emo boy.
Emo sad, yes. Yeah, exactly. Like, but he was like the father of the emos. That's the way that I viewed him.
Yeah.
Like Papa Emo. That was I guess that would be the way I would go to describe it. Sorry, Alice Cooper. You're like now the grandfather.
Basically. Dude,
enough time has passed that now he's in Grandpa Papa Cooper.
Dude, Alice Cooper once was in an interview and he was asked what he thought of Marilyn Manson. He was like, "Oh, we're cool," but like when I first talked to him, I was like, "Oh, a guy that wears makeup and has the first name of a girl. I wish I had that idea."
Boy, So I have really just nailed all of these comparisons here.
Yeah.
And, but in any case, I typecast him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I listened to this album, and the only other exposure I really had to him was from Midnight Club Dub Edition 3 remix, for which is Rock is Dead, which is on this album.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it, but I didn't really like put together it's Marilyn Manson and this. And then beyond that, what I had heard was pretty much just TAW intros.
You've heard
that I mostly fast forwarded because I just wanted to get to the action. No offense. No offense.
Go subscribe to TAW Gaming, by the way.
Which, by the way, I'm not in no way knocking the production quality or value of TAW Gaming. I just had other things to do. No offense. But they're very well put together intros. You have a very good intro and exit package editing skill. I don't get to tell you that often enough.
I'm very good at using copyrighted music.
Well, but also syncing a lot of footage, and there's a lot of in-betweening to sync that music to the footage. Trust me, as someone who has stuck his toes in the water with that kind of editing for CIW, go subscribe to CIW.
Uh-huh.
You know, I respect the amount of effort and just time and finagling it takes to get that to look as precise as it does.
I am the most pristine finagler.
Yes, that you do. That should be on your plaque at your desk.
Finagling animals.
Yes. That's basically your job description at Pizza Hut, right? Pizza finagler?
Pizza finagler and pizza peddler.
That's one step up of just pizza driver.
I would love to just have a hat that says pizza peddler on the hat. I would love that, because that's basically what I do. But
yeah, there needs to be more flexibility about that with the IRS too. Like when they ask for what your job title is.
I'm a pizza finagler.
Let them be the judge. Let them figure out what that means. That's not on you.
But
anyway, how did we get here?
I don't. I ask myself that question whenever we have any conversation ever.
It's true.
But basically, again, like I always grew up with like Christian music. Like I still love Toby Mac. I love Cutlass. I love Mercy Me and DC Talk and all those bands like that. My first exposure to like anything even remotely edgy was Black Veil Brides, and that's when I listened to them in high school, and I kind of branched out a little bit. But Marilyn Manson was always like the forbidden fruit, like, oh, you shouldn't listen to him because he worships the devil. And I was like, ooh, but that also kind of made it more attractive, like this thing you're not supposed to have.
It's funny how that works in the human psyche with taboos.
So I listened to Sweet Dreams, his Eurythmics cover, and I loved it, even though the music video was fucking weird. Him covered in mud riding a pig and then wearing a tutu, I didn't know how to respond to that. Then his cover of Tainted Love I loved, and then I listened to The Beautiful People, and then eventually I was careful about which album I listened to. The first full album of his that I listened to was Mechanical Animals, and I was like, this is the most batshit insane, genius thing I've ever listened to.
It's brilliant.
This album had me during the solo at the end of the opening track, which is one of the most monumentally, like, brain-melting, amazing things I've ever listened to. And I have listened to this album a very unhealthy number of times.
Well, I think that's understandable, honestly, because here's how I kind of figured into this. Now, for those of you who don't know, I have a pretty musical background. I was raised by the son of a music teacher for 25 years. Mm. My mom has an incredible ear for music and went to, the actual like choir high school. So I've been exposed to a lot of different music in a lot of different places. I'm more of I do a lot of opera singing, but I play guitar and I have a piano wobble. This isn't a plug, but just the background of this, I got into like some actual metal and marching band in high school. So like, it's a different genre, I think, because Manson, well, we'll talk about Manson as kind of the chameleon in just a second, but I was listening to black metal, death metal, like Dying Fetus, real band, look it up. Great, love them.
I've heard of that band before.
They're terrific, actually. They are incredible the way that, I enjoy them. However, I will say they do get sometimes one-dimensional in some of their transitions. But anyway,
Yeah.
and like Suffocation, right? That was another one that I kind of got into, and Amon Amarth to some degree, to a lesser extent, but they had a couple of things. But anyway, I was always into that. A big Disturbed fan growing up, and I know they are like the ultimate like controversy for whatever reason, because metal won't accept them, hard rock won't accept them, regular rock won't accept them. They're just Disturbed.
Yeah.
So, and I like Disturbed. So if you have a problem with me, leave it in the comments, and I will uppercut you with what little hair I have left on my head.
I was just about to say they won't comment about that as much as they will comment about your hair during football videos.
Yep, I'm gonna throw it at him. I'm gonna throw my light pieces of hair that I'm gonna throw them at you people. Anyway,
I don't have a lot of ammunition, but damn it, I'll use what I have
and mail it to you. Yeah, with a big drawing of a middle finger on it on construction paper. That anyway. So in any case, so I kind of grew up with some of that like hard rock when I was into football and that thing. So Manson would have fit into that, but he just never did, because he was just kind of in the same way that Disturbed was. It's like a lot of people don't want to accept him as a member of their genre either, which is actually interesting, the parallels between the two. But then you listen to an album like Mechanical Animals, and I was going to keep it, as JoshAgeddon said, I was working out throughout this whole thing. And there were some times that I actually had to stop what I was doing because I was just so captivated by the music. Because this album, track by track, every song sounds different, completely different from the start. And it gives you a different vibe. But there's also a lot of external influences beyond just the fundamental of rock that he starts with. So where he will take influences of like almost like a gospel jazz band in the one we were making a pun of I don't like the drugs, but the drugs like me. But he also lets some songs simmer a little bit, and he also knows when to kind of go into some musical riffs so you'll actually hear the words that he's trying to get across too. Because I think sometimes people either obsess too much over the lyrics or too much over the music, and it's hard to balance giving moments to let what you're saying actually digest, so you're actually registering and hearing what you're talking about. Manson does a really good job of stopping for good lines to make you sit and think about what he's saying, especially for such a topic like, kind of getting to the other side of drug addiction.
Yeah.
And especially for a certain, certain things that I've been struggling with lately. I really appreciated this. The timing of this was very good for me as well to hear. But it's the fact that I can actually digest and take away a lot of that from it, because he lets the moment come and go.
Yeah.
But all in different tempos and at different keys and in different energy levels. It's not just all grunge hard, and a lot of it isn't really like, it's depressing subject matter, but he's not presenting it in a depressing way.
He's not all woe is me, life is unfair.
I was a drug addict, I'm sad, my name is Ronnie Radke, sorry.
Oh wow. All right.
Didn't mean to go there. And I like Falling in Reverse. That was just an unnecessary pot shot for me. Shout out to Don Cheadle.
Catching straight. Stop. But one thing that me and you both agree on.
Cross-pollinating here. I'm sorry.
There's so much cross-pollination happening right now. Yeah. But one thing that you talked about while you were listening to it that I'm like, yeah, I absolutely agree. The transition between tracks.
Oh yeah, that
dude.
Too. Going from track to track where you don't really know where it's moving, but it's every one of them. It's so seamless. The production is such a high value of audio production quality too.
It is.
So big credit to their producers for that.
And this not like by this time he had been doing this forever. This was his third album. And like his first album, Portrait of an American Family, is pretty good, but it has debut album-itis, where you can tell they're not really sure what they're doing, but he's forming an identity. His second album, Antichrist Superstar, is very much like because the thing about Mechanical Animals is it's very genius. There's a ton of thought that was put into it, and I'm actually going to explain a little bit of the concept of the album to you and some of the influences. Same thing with Antichrist Superstar. It is a genius, thought-provoking rock opera concept album. But then, like, this came out 2 years after Antichrist Superstar. It actually made some Marilyn Manson fans mad because it was such a jarring shift. Because Antichrist Superstar is like your brain's being attacked by chainsaws. This is like demonic David Bowie. It is a completely different sound.
Demonic David Bowie. Wow. It's funny you say that because I've never listened to a David Bowie album start to finish, and I bet you I would be equally as surprised.
Honestly,
I bet you.
His main influence for this album was Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Because the concept is similar, because in the Ziggy Stardust album, he's an alien that falls to Earth and is in a rock band. The concept for this album, Mechanical Animals, is Marilyn Manson plays two roles. An alien named Omega, which is on the cover, him with the nipless boobs. He falls to Earth and is sold in and forced to be in a rock band called the Mechanical Animals. And the album track list is divided into two halves. It's not like Act 1, Act 2. 7 of the songs are sung from Omega's perspective, and 7 other songs are sung by the other character, Alpha. Alpha and Omega, you get the joke right there. So the 7 songs by Omega are very over the top, very loud, very glam rockish, just excess. He's singing about his experiences being forced into American society and trying to fill the emptiness on the inside with like drugs and sex and a whole bunch of ridiculous stuff, but it's not working. Like The Dope Show is an Omega song. I Don't Like the Drugs, But the Drugs Like Me is an Omega song. The other 7 songs are from Alpha's perspective, which are about, he's basically reacting to what's happening to Omega, and it's more introspected, it's more subdued, it's more calm. Coma White is a Alpha song. Great Big White World is an Alpha song. The title track is an Alpha song. So the songs that are more calm and introspective, those are Alpha songs. The more over-the-top and crazy and ridiculous songs are Omega songs.
Fascinating.
And it's pretty wild. And the whole thing, what blows my mind is considering who we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who literally calls himself the Antichrist Superstar. This album is an anti-drug PSA, essentially. Because...
Yeah, and I find it fascinating that, like, I do feel to some degree I want to go back and listen to the first 2 albums only for the comparative measure, because this is what's fascinating about this one. For an album like Antichrist Superstar, in this album, even though he says a lot of times, like, I don't have a religion, there is quite a lot of religious undertones to this entire thing as far as the redemption story is concerned. As far as thematic, kind of spiritual rejuvenation. Not necessarily along the confines of Christianity, but just spiritual rejuvenation and finding a light at the end of the tunnel when you're in your darkest moment, or when everything feels and looks blank, as he alludes to a few times.
And honestly, his most famous albums are his triptych, which are Antichrist Superstar, which came out in 96, this album, which came out in 98, and his 4th album, Hollywood, which came out in 2000. Those 3 albums are, and I've told you this before, but it represents a narrative in reverse chronological order. Hollywood is the beginning, which represents starting a revolution against the powers that be. Mechanical Animals represents when that revolution gets popular and becomes a product, and basically it becomes the norm and it loses what's made it special. Antichrist Superstar represents burning down that revolution so you can start from scratch. And all 3 albums have their own separate, like, contained stories.
Yeah.
And each one is it's a similar tale because in Antichrist Superstar, he starts off as a character called the Worm, who is a downtrodden, rejected from society, just weak and feeble being. But over the album, he becomes the Disintegrator. He becomes the Antichrist Superstar, which is a powerful figure of resolve and confidence. In Hollywood, he's a character called Adam. He is part of there are two basically cities. There's Hollywood, which is where all the rich, fancy, powerful people live, and then there's the Shadow of the Valley of Death, which is where all the desolate people stay. Adam moves from the Shadow of the Valley of Death to Hollywood and rubs elbows with the people, like the rich and famous people. But he realizes that when he's one of them now, he's also putting people down. So he's not cool with that either. So he just starts a revolution against the entire thing. That's a very common theme of rebirth, retribution, and redemption through a lot of his work.
Well, it's fascinating to me because like I'm walking into this with such a stereotype of like, oh, it's sad boy grunge stuff, but like it's not even just the message out there, but I think so many people, based on just appearances alone, have typecast this man.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they figure that this is a bad message for our children, like you don't even know what he's talking about. Like that's kind of what I'm here to admit. It's like I completely thought that his stuff was going to be just like, I don't want to say garbage, but all very angry and bitter and and resentful and full of just, I don't know, negativity where you just feel so like bogged down and weighted after it. And that's so not the case.
Yeah.
And that's something really fascinating that like if I would be fine having my teenage kids hearing something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because what it's telling you, if you listen to what it's telling you like, look, it's okay to feel these kinds of things, but like this is where you end up with it. And everybody can redeem themselves from something. It doesn't have to be like drugs to this caliber, but everybody loves a good narrative and redemption story, right? So to have good morals behind what you're bringing to the table, it's just a shame how much humans judge and then will dictate their entire perspective on somebody based on that initial look.
Did you know that Marilyn Manson is actually there is legal precedent that he is not allowed to perform in the state of South Carolina, which is where I live, because of this exact thing. In the late 90s, they drew up legislation that legally prohibits him from performing in the state of South Carolina, and that is still a thing today. Because they believed that his whole message was, oh, you should kill yourself, you should kill other people, worship Satan, all these negative things, hate everyone. When at the surface level, like, sure, you can mistake it for that, but if you actually listen, you can say that he's basically saying, hey, like, yeah, you're a flawed person, but that's okay. Embrace your flaws and get better. That's basically what a lot of his message is. And again, and also people, like, a lot of rumors have been made about this guy. Like, there's, of course, you've probably heard the rumor that he had a rib surgically removed so he could blow himself. There were rumors that he would sacrifice animals on stage and rape people that attended his concerts on stage. Just all kinds of crazy stuff that people made up just to build a case against him to ban him from playing in whatever location he was at.
It's pretty insane how just perception like that. And I'm sure that he said what my buddy Abe Bizzle and I always say, and what a lot of rappers have always said in defense of, the same kind of stereotypes. Listen to what we're saying. Listen to the lyrics. Read what we're saying. Digest it. Because what you're hearing is just like, you're hearing selective words and going, this ain't right.
Yeah.
But if you actually absorbs half of the message, and that's why I'm giving Marilyn Manson so much credit for that, because his albums will do that. They will make you stop for a second and go back and wait, what did he just say? And then absorb that and digest that. And that's something that a lot of artists aren't able to capture, is when to let the moment digest. I hate to akin it to pro wrestling because this is like the one place that we don't do that. But it very similarly, like a big problem of like what you see in like AEW, and where it's all moves and all moves and all moves, and what you're missing is what happens after the move. Mm-hmm. When Roman Reigns walks around for 45, well, okay, maybe that's an extreme example, but what he does with his body language and moving and talking and his little weird head shake that he does, that little, like, just where he says no, even though he's saying I'm the best. It's a weird thing. He does that. I don't know whether you've ever noticed that.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he shakes his head no, but says, yes, I'm the tribal chief.
This is my company, you little bitch.
Yeah. And anyway, but it's the same thing. But Marilyn Manson is and I don't know whether I registered it to you, but like 1998, when you consider the kind of tones that are coming out of what he's doing and the way that rock was, and that same, it's kind of what I look at with the popular 90s music now, with like Sum 41 and Blink 182. That is equal sad boy music. It's just cheery beated sad boy music, sad white boy music. I miss you, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, sorry, I just pissed off a whole generation of people. I know. I don't care, but I know. I'm aware of it.
But one of my favorite things, especially with these albums, is they are so draped in metaphor upon metaphor upon metaphor.
They're very layered. So, like, the more you listen to it, you catch different stuff.
And they can be interpreted in so many different ways. Like, at surface value, some of the things he sings are a little concerning. But again, that's just surface value. If you're able to, like, dig beneath the surface and actually absorb what he's getting across, it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. Like, again, everyone's like, oh, he's, like, super atheist, he hates Christians, yada, yada, yada. In Posthuman, he sings one of my favorite lyrics, God is a number we cannot count to. And I'm like, that is such a creative way to say that even, like, no one understands God. And that's basically his position on religion, that he doesn't know what the answer is.
Well, and I also think that, sadly, a lot of the more ignorantly rooted Christian branches don't like thinking of religion as anything outside of my solid, rigid Christian values, right? There's no other religion except my religion. So, like, even though he's talking about religion, it's not necessarily confining itself to Christianity. You know what I mean? It's like, he's not putting himself in that box. But I think because people love putting themselves in that box, if he doesn't fit into that box, that must mean devil worship.
Yeah, basically.
You know what I'm saying? And, like, I think that's a big part of why he had the reputation that he did, and unjustly so. And
now, whenever people would accuse him of things, he's also a bit of a prankster and an instigator. He would purposefully lean into things to piss people off. One of my favorite things that he ever did, on MTV in like 98, the MTV Music Awards, he did a live performance of The Dope Show. And part of the lyrics are, cops and queers make good-looking models. And he says that about twice in the song. He was specifically told not to use that line because it might offend some people. So not only did he use that line the first time in the song, but then later on he said the pigs and fags on TV just to piss people off. And it made so many people so mad. And I just love that kind of, don't tell me what to do, or I'll make it even worse. Now, I just love that kind of stuff.
Well, and at least from the people I know that are in the community, they love modeling. Yeah. He's right. They do make good models. They have the best, most organized runway models of anybody. They are ready for it. They are having a blast. Good on him. Go have a great time. It's not my cup of tea, but good on him. Go have a great time. So he's not saying incorrect things. You just don't like the way he's saying it. Yeah. And again, are they listening to the lyrics, or are they going, this is not language we want? Yeah. They're not, again, mainstream has a very hard time dealing with context.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's been forever,
And it's
you know?
getting worse.
And it's only gotten worse.
It's
And
getting worse, which in turn makes this album like album was so far ahead of its time.
well, and it was at kind of the peak when people were ready to receive this kind of stuff. Kurt Cobain had come and gone. A lot of the real gangster rap had come and gone. Biggie was gone by then. Pac was gone by then. And I mean, I'm not saying that there weren't people kind of carrying along that, but like the vibe and flavor of the 90s and what that was waning in what 2000s were, which was just different, right? And so which is, say the attitude, again, sorry, non-wrestling fans, but the attitude era of wrestling, the NWO, that kind of vibe, that was coming to a close. And this was kind of right at that peak where people were absorbing this kind of thing. And the timing of this album is spectacular in that respect, because it is at the exact right time for people to absorb it with the exact right message that people needed, I think. Especially when drugs were so much a part of the, drugs and suicide and all of that, that flavor of what had been going on in pop culture. Princess Diana had been killed. That wasn't because of drugs, but that was, but the same, that whole thing. There was just this moment where an album like this, it still had the feeling of, the dark despondence, but it also sent the message of growth and light. And that's something people needed at the time. And it's hard to balance doing that musically.
And it, like you said, and I remember you telling me that like your jaw damn near hit the floor, like when
several times,
like especially on "I Don't Like the Drugs, but the Drugs Like Me," when he brought in like a gospel chorus, dude.
Yeah,
that was my reaction when I first heard that song. I was like, "What is actually happening right now?"
Yeah, I was amazed, genuinely amazed, and I actually just felt remorseful. I felt so bad. Truthfully, I felt sorry for myself but for misjudging this man so drastically. And folks, I will be here sitting you like, if you are one of those like corn-fed white people raised on AC/DC and classic rock and and all that stuff, give this guy a chance.
Yeah.
You would be surprised how much you like it.
Yeah.
I think this album in particular, for what it is and how it says, and the thing is too, is that Marilyn Manson doesn't do what a lot of other people do, which is kind of sound the same in every song.
That's like, as much as I love Black Veil Brides, they kind of sing about the same thing all the time.
It happens to a lot of bands. I mean,
but they dress it up in different ways, but it's very much the same thing. One of my favorite things about Manson is nothing he does is the same. Like,
no, and it's diversity. His diversity is truly jaw-dropping.
His last album was a country album.
Yeah.
Which should not have worked, but We Are Chaos from 2020 is awesome. And I thought I would hate it.
Well, and that's just part of the nature of what. It's an interesting dynamic now, especially because so many people are doing so many different genres. I mean, I did it myself. I never made a piano album before. Sorry to self-plug again. But I taught myself piano this year to make an album for it. Everybody's cross-pollinating. Beyonce did the thing with Contre, which everybody like ubiquitously hated. But unanimously and they were everywhere all at once. But not the movie. I didn't watch the movie.
I have not either. I've had it with the multiverse, okay? I've had enough with the multiverse.
Yeah, that's all right. But in any case, I have to say it was. I had heard you for years talking about it, and thank you for sending me this. So and I'm glad I was able to actually find some time to try this. And really get something different that really amazed me, really blew my expectations. And I got to give a lot of credit to Marilyn Manson, because we were just talking about like how right now the fuse is even shorter about, you know, first judgments and glances and all of that stuff. And, you know, the canceling and blah, blah, blah. So it's amazing to think that in this, I don't want to say the word cauldron. Cauldron sounds better than cesspool. In this cauldron of cancellation, that a guy like Marilyn Manson, who has always kind of had this stigma on him and has had this thing, has the balls to release another album now.
Dude.
Like, right at the timing of this. And here's the thing, with music, 3/4 of what makes music, what an artist successful, timing is absolutely everything.
Dude, when this new album drops,
and I've liked what I've heard. What you've sent, I've enjoyed.
Yeah, like, dude, when this album drops, that high-pitched squealing you're gonna hear from all the way in Connecticut from South Carolina, that's me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's going to be a video, folks, that's going to air on this that says Marilyn Manson album just dropped, and you're going to click on it, and it's just going to be dripping white on the video.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be JoshAgeddon, and I'm going to let you be the judge as to what's dripping on your monitor.
Don't get too close to it. You might get pregnant.
Well,
I will fertilize.
I was trying for a little subtlety here.
I will fertilize the land. But.
You think we're kidding, folks, but you don't understand what it took to get to this point. This is less talking about it than he's done ever in this hour.
Well, honestly, because I've been interested in your perspective, and I've talked about this album enough. Like, I could have and probably will and might write books about, dude, this album's amazing. Listen to it.
Well, you've finally broken me down, so when you get,
Now,
when I see your op-ed on Barstool Sports.
Or the Armbar Express. That's a reference that none of you will get.
If you get into the Armbar Express, that's when I'm stepping in as your best friend and going, no, what are you doing?
We need to have an intervention.
No, you ain't working there. I don't care where you write. You can write your column on the Court Martial Podcast community page.
If I start writing for the Armbar Express, you have my permission to lock me up and send me to Three Rivers.
I will pull you. I will. I will send you to Three Rivers Community College in Connecticut, where you will get educated on how.
But all right, so
be a part of stupid things with stupid people in charge. Anyway,
fuck British people. But
we have 100% buried somebody that no one is gonna know.
I hope he listens to this.
Yeah, it's like the one time. I wonder what they're doing. Oh my god.
So I do want to prime you though, in case you are interested in checking out his other albums, because there's some ups and downs. I would definitely check out the rest of the triptych, Antichrist Superstar and Hollywood. I think you'll like those. You might enjoy Portrait of an American Family, but it's very, very, very much debut album-itis.
Well, it's nice to see some of these people, like, when they're getting out and they're kind of just like, what's my identity? I mean, everybody goes through that. Every artist goes through that. I did that. My first albums, I'm not going to say they sucked, but they were not the greatest. It was me trying to sound like something I wasn't, and it took a while for me to find my voice.
Now, after Hollywood, his fifth album, Golden Age of Grotesque, that came out in 2003, he kind of stopped with all the rock opera concept album, super metaphorical stuff, and got a little bit more straightforward. I like Golden Age of Grotesque, although it's kind of a step down. I don't think you'll like Eat Me, Drink Me, because it's I'm Sad Because I Got Divorced album.
Well, okay.
The High End of Low from 2009 is the weirdest album I've ever heard. He literally admitted that he had a mental breakdown while making this album, and it was because of his relationship issues. I think you might enjoy Born Villain, which was his comeback. I think you'll love at least the first half of The Pale Emperor, because it's a blues album. I have no idea how you'll react to Heaven Upside Down, because it's a pop album. And I think you'll like We Are Chaos.
You know what's funny is that, like, you saying, oh, Marilyn Manson, it's a jazz album, that doesn't faze me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's something, that, like, to the credit of Marilyn Manson, that is something. And I will say this, anyone who is looking to get into Marilyn Manson, I think your approach of start them with Mechanical Animals is the best choice.
Yeah. Yeah, because it will knock your socks off in the most, well, that's not what I expected way possible.
Well, and it also properly showcased his capability of diversity in a way that if you get to an album where it's like, I'm sad because I got divorced, and it ends up a little more streamlined, it's like, okay, but then he'll come back with like a jazz album and you're not thrown with it. It's a great mixed bag.
Yeah.
As someone who has released 2 albums called Mixed Bag, I appreciate when someone is able to showcase their diversity, and that's something that I really do hope that all of you kiddos out there listening to this do give this album a try, because I don't like ranking albums because obviously music is always subjective. So whatever anybody says is going to be their opinion of it, right? As it is with that other thing we like to do on the other channels you should subscribe to.
Exactly. Links will be in the description.
But I will say this. I think what did I say to you? Like an 8.5 or 9?
It was either an 8.5 or a 9. I think it might have been a 9.
Yeah, it was something like that, because it really does. It's everything you want in an album that is going to not only showcase your talent, but also break stigmas of who you are, and also establish who you are and the kind of positivity, like the kind of moral you want to instill and like a message you want to send. Because I think that's the most important thing as a musician, is what is the message you're trying to send. And there's some value in everyone. I mean, that's why I think it's so depressing that a lot of music now is just like, fuck bitches, get money.
Yeah.
Let me cheat on my girlfriend. You want to hear a sad statistic I heard this morning?
Oh, no.
And I hate to digress about this because we're about to close this, but just this kind of wraps it all together. It was something I heard that 20% of relationships start with what they're calling mate poaching, which is a lot of syllables to say cheating.
What? Mate poaching?
Mate poaching is their soft language to just say cheating. Which they had, of course, a 5-minute discussion on whatever news channel I was half paying attention to, but I saw the stat that 20% of all relationships start from cheating. That doesn't mean successful. It just says that's how they start.
Yeah, that's not exactly a solid foundational ground to grow a relationship.
Doing, people? This is why we need music like Mechanical Animals.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's more our responsibility as artists. Sorry to get on my high horse, but I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna sit here on my high horse. It's gonna hit my pen, and this horse is gonna have a chill ass day, and eat a lot of hay. And
I wonder what next is what you will say.
Say, well,
now we're
there
rhyming.
are a lot of sayers that want to say nay, but I will. I'll leave that to the horse. Anyway.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, we got caught up in stupid stuff, but I will say it is our responsibility as artists to be sending good messages, sending moralistic messages, no matter what you feel they are. But it's our responsibility as artists to say something.
Yeah.
It's time to stop with these shallow, let's just pump out albums for money. We need more artists, not just pop people, right? No disrespect to Taylor Swift, because she writes all of her music, and she's one of the very few people who is in that very top tier of people who is still single-handedly writing her own lyrics. So I will give her
for
credit
better and or for
for
worse.
Have tons of ghostwriters. Yeah, for better and for worse,
dude.
You got to give her credit for that.
Dude,
but there's a lot of ghostwriter people, and there's a lot of shallowness and superficiality, and it's our responsibility as musicians to bring real tones, because there's really only 2 places you can find the truth anymore: comedy and music.
Dude.
The only places you're allowed to let those messages get across. So this is a call out to all musicians: be like Marilyn Manson. Don't do the whole drug part first, but be the part of the musician message first.
Or the nipless boobs.
Well, I mean, live your life. Do whatever you want. Just like, I'm not going to speak on that. But
have you heard Taylor's...
Have a message. Don't just talk about fuck bitches get money.
Have you heard Taylor's most recent album, The Tortured Poets Department?
I refused, but I've heard a couple pieces, but I'm more of a fan of old Taylor than I am new Taylor. Truthfully,
I was forced to listen to the entire album. I not a fan.
Well, you want to talk about somebody who sounds
awful.
the same on every track.
It was awful.
You know,
it's a 32-year-old that sounds like a 16-year-old. It was awful. It's not the worst album I've ever heard, but it was an album that I listened to, and I have emotions.
So did she. I thought she conveyed that in the album, but.
Yeah, that emotion was sad. You want to do a breakup album? Do Eat Me, Drink Me, okay? That's a good breakup album, in my opinion. Not just the same whining constantly. And it's a double album, so it has like 20 songs.
I know. Well, that's why I didn't listen to it, because I was making this piano album, which is coming out in December. Fuck it, I'm just doing the whole plug. Piano album, Carte Blanche is the name of it. It's releasing in December. I don't have an exact date because I'm still recording the tracks, but that will soon be coming on, and it's actually the first to be released under Sean McCarty as opposed to White Nux.
I love how, like, the past several years have been just me breaking you down till you finally gave Mechanical Animals a chance. And this whole podcast is you deciding on whether or not to actually plug your shit and then just giving up at the end and plugging it anyway.
Fine.
Our dynamic is me breaking you down until you submit.
It's like 3 strikes and you're out. I stopped myself twice. And I'm like, okay, fine. We're already here. We've already done it. We've teased, you buried the lead, as they say.
Yes.
And so it's an album. You want to talk about a sad boy album? This is my sad boy album. But,
yeah.
But I really did try to change this. It's me figuring out piano, but there is diversity to it. I change a lot of tempos, and the neat thing about this album that I've just done is that every song starts a half a step up in key. So the first track is in C sharp. And then the next track is in D, and then the next track is in E flat, and then the next track is in E, and then the next track is in F minor, and then the next track is in G flat, and then the next track is in G, and so on and so forth until the very last track, the title track, Carte Blanche, is back to natural C.
Okay.
And so I went all the way up, and it was in an attempt to teach myself piano, but it was through a pretty wild relationship that I went through start to finish, but it's all about kind of the growth of me as a person. It's not necessarily about the person who I was with, even though a lot of them are kind of, about that. It's more about the growth that I took in that. And it's a really powerful album, at least for me. And so there is some diversity to it. I'm really looking forward to showing people this. I'm more excited about this than maybe anything else I've ever released, because while my stuff before has had substance, it's not had this kind of substance.
I'm excited to listen to it.
Yeah, right. I've been like feeding y'all like thrown together bologna and cheese sandwiches for several years. I have made you a proper thick boy roast beef sandwich on rye bread or whatever bread you like, with whatever condiment you like.
I like American bread.
Okay, wonder it is. And so, but
the most bland, generic bread you could give me.
You said American. There's nothing more American than Wonder Bread that doesn't go bad in mold, because who the hell knows what it's made of? That is the most American
it's in a factory
you
somewhere.
Can get.
This bread is straight capitalism.
Yeah, but I mean, what else are you gonna choose? Freihoffers? Those German pricks? No, I love Freihoffers. Don't sue me. I love them. I do. I enjoy
sponsor us, please.
I know. I immediately take back that knock, but no. But in any case, how do we get to talking about bread? Oh, the sandwich that is this album. I'm really looking forward to this. Carte Blanche, available soon. Check out all of the bologna and cheese sandwiches, which are equally as good and keep you fed and keep you alive. Do not knock a bologna and cheese sandwich, and hell, some of those tracks might even be olive loaf if you like it. And
might have a gospel choir in the background for some reason that'll blow your mind.
I cannot wait to go tell a Bizzle that I told people that our music is like olive loaf. I don't even know how he's gonna react to that.
He'll be like, okay.
What do you mean?
What?
No, you know what's gonna happen? He's gonna be half listening, packing a bowl. He's gonna be like, oh hell yeah, and then like not even realize what I just said.
And then a couple minutes later, what the fuck did you say?
Yeah, he's like, I don't even like all of them. I don't know if he likes all of them. likes or does not like olives. But he is the straightest man I know. You want to know how straight he is?
Sure.
He hates nuts. Not because he's allergic. He just hates them.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna bring this to. We went from Marilyn Manson Mechanical Animals to bread and nuts.
We went to A. Bizzle doesn't like nuts.
Yeah.
So, folks,
I don't like the nuts, but the nuts like me.
Well,
you're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
Later, when the new Manson album drops, me and Sean are gonna review it. We're gonna talk about nuts some more, and we're gonna have a grand old time. Thank you guys so much for listening. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. See you next time.
Lord.